Ever had something so strange happen that you couldn't explain it? Most people have. To prove it, I went out on the street and asked, what's the strangest experience you've ever had? The answers might just make you feel a little less weird than you thought you were.
Oh, well, he wants to run the camera, does he? Okay.
Well, it's about, my sister lives in Manchester and I'm here.
Yeah.
And you know when we buy cards?
Yeah.
Like for me mum?
Yeah.
Or when my dad was alive, it would be exactly the same.
Exactly the same card.
Exactly the same card.
Are you twins?
No. Mother's Day cards, Father's Day cards, birthday cards. How's that? Christmas cards?
Yeah.
Look! Am I done?
Now, my eldest son, he had a drowning accident when he was just 4, and that was it. His life was ended.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
Then my second son, I found him one day really in the throes of having a cot death. And I just caught him in time, right? And I took him to the hospital and I said to my mother, explained what was happening to Quintus. And my mother said, look, he's got somebody very, very helpful on his corner, and that's his brother, the one that's died. And she said, I do honestly feel that he won't let his brother die, right? So that was the first instance.
Mine really was my father, when my father passed away, and it was just, I was with some friends, and I wasn't into the fact of anybody doing readings or anything like that, and we just happened to visit them. I was with them and they said, well, we just need to pop here, and as I walked in, she said, I've got a blue aura around me. I don't know what that, she said that was a good thing, but anyway, went on to explain, and she says, you've had some trauma, and I never mentioned it to her. And I went, yeah. Anyway, she went on to say, your father, is it something to do with you? I said, yeah, my father had passed away. And he had got spinal problems, and she told me that. So then was weird, and she actually said that I'd seen my father the one day. I'd be getting into my car, and he'd be standing, very clear, she says, to be standing at the far right end of your car, just letting you know that everything's okay. I haven't actually seen that as yet.
I can think of something. So the strangest thing that has ever happened to me is that my mum would have a smoke on the balcony, and one time a guy from kind of the street level would shout at her, like, you like dropped your cat to the street, like, your cat jumped off the balcony. Like, at that point we had no cat. 2 years later we did have a cat, and the cat just disappeared one day, and to this day we think this is a time-traveling cat who somehow jumped off the balcony and traveled back those 2 years when someone just randomly shouted at us that there has been a cat foliage from our balcony.
I had like a babysitter who did family daycare, who had all looked after my children when I was working. So one night I got rung by the woman's husband and said, look, I just want to ring you to tell you that Edith, that was the lady's name, has been affected by meningococcal meningitis, and she's on life support. So anyway, that night I was sort of dreaming, and I had this dream, and it was really about my first son that died, right? Rinny, and he said to me, oh Mum, I want Edie, that was the lady's name, to come and play with me. And anyway, one day the husband rang me and he said, oh look, they're going to take her off the life support. And I said, well, that's terrific. So I goes up, and here when I goes in, she's still got the drip stand up, and here's the photograph of my son, Rinny, on the drip stand. And I said, oh, you've got a picture of Rinny there. She said, oh yes, when I came round, she said, I sent Ross, her hubby, back down to get a picture of Rinny to bring him here. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, look, I never said anything to Ross whilst you've been ill. I was just waiting for you to be better, but I've got something to tell you. And she said, you don't have to tell me. She says, Rinny came to me and asked me to come play with him. The same thing that he asked me. And I told him, no, I couldn't come. And she said, I really honestly feel that he was instrumental in my recovery.
Okay, when I was a child, teacher used to write numbers on the board, and I used to be able to suggest the numbers to her. Now it sounds crazy, but I could think of the number, and she'd write, she'd stand there, pivotal, and I'd go in my head, 4, and she'd write down a 4. I mean, it could have been totally random, but it actually freaked me out and it really scared me when I was a kid. Generally speaking, I would say sort of 9 times out of 10, if I thought about the number really hard, she would write that number down. So that's really weird. And I stopped doing it because this is really scaring me. I don't like this, you know.
Then my daughter, for goodness sake, she had got exposed to the E. coli, so to take her to the hospital. So I rang my mother and I said, look, I've got to tell you about Vari now. Vari's in the hospital with hemolytic uremic syndrome and about could die. Tonight I'll tell. So my mother said, well, this is what I've got to say. Rinny, help Mrs. Lily. Rinny, help Quintus. He won't let your sister die. And then in the morning, she responded to that challenge. And then at the end of that week, she was able to be discharged from the hospital. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily supernatural. I mean, and the other people might think about supernatural. The essence of telling people about this story, or these stories, is to remind them is that there's always hope. But the other thing too, I mean, if anybody does need help, just mention my first son's name, Rinny.
So there you have it. Proof that strange experiences don't just happen to strange people. If you've ever had a moment that didn't quite make sense, share it in the comments. You might be surprised how normal weird really is.